Welcome back to another episode of Four Down Territory. My name is Miles. Alongside me, as always, is Sam. It has been a while, Sam, since we have recorded one of these. Feels a bit unnatural. It's been that long. Due to my mistakes, I forgot to take my equipment while on holiday, but we digress, don't we?
It's all good. We're back. We're back just in time. Draft is around the corner next week. Getting excited now. It's one of those things where for a while now we've been sat in that space of the off season where it feels like there's just no news, so you get all these dead stories coming out. But now we're going to head into the week where things are going to start happening. It's all people are making their way to Pittsburgh for the draft. We might even see some trades go ahead in the next week or so, just to in the run up. But exciting time.
It's funny you mentioned the trades because I was trying to think back. So, like, when was the last trade or like blockbuster trade done? A couple of days before the draft, and the big one that came to me was when Philadelphia traded up to 2 for Carson Wentz. They did that a few days before the draft because they knew the Rams were going to take a quarterback and they didn't care who was going to go to 2.
Right
Now, unfortunately, there's obviously no 1 and 2 quarterbacks going off that early, but I love the drama of like one big blockbuster trade happening so early on, and it's not going to happen this year, but next year we could definitely easily see it.
The only one I could think of was the Trey Lance trade. Was that before the draft? I feel like
Trey
that was
Lance
in the
trade
week before, wasn't
was
it?
before the draft. Yes,
I can't
absolutely. I
remember.
was thinking that
Yeah,
the Bryce Young trade was right
of
at the start
course.
of
Yes.
free agency, but that
Yeah,
was
that
obviously
was
a big
cool.
blockbuster one.
That was really cool seeing that will go up because that was the cool thing with stuff like that is my favorite thing about trades in general is that often there is no, like, obviously we knew the Panthers were trying to move the pick, but there's no like idea of where it's going. Suddenly you're all getting spammed with notifications. Oh, by the way, Bears are on the clock. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I think that builds the excitement of these off seasons. It builds the excitement of the NFL draft. It's what we look forward to as fans as well. But unfortunately, we're not going to get that. That's rather frustrating. For this week, Sam, we are going to do something similar to what we did last year. We are basically just trying to buy time for one more week until we do our final mock drafts. Instead of throwing out another shared draft, we are going to do our NFL draft storylines for this season. We're going to go over the biggest talking points or facts that we think need to be addressed before the day of the draft, and we're going to discuss it here today. First point, Sam, and I think is the most obvious one, is the quarterback class. So that'll always be the main talking point of every single NFL draft class. This one, more importantly, because there is an obvious number one in Fernando Mendoza, but after him, there is a steep drop off. The closest to him by this big boss, Ty Simpson, and then you're having Garrett Nussmeier and Drew Aller, Carson Beck as the following players, all of which will. So Ty Simpson is the second overall, as predicted here, and then all of which land in the third and fourth. So there's a big drop off for these players.
Yeah, I mean, we've had years. I've go back to Bo Nix's draft class where there was six first round QBs,
Mm-hmm.
and then this is one of those ones where for a fact Mendoza is going first overall. And then the thing with Ty Simpson is he could still be a first round quarterback because at the end of the day, teams are going to pick a quarterback when they want to pick a quarterback. There's very much potential for a team to move up into the first round, looking at like the Cardinals and the Jets at the start of the second, moving up to take Ty Simpson. He's one of those players that big board wise is sort of graded as a second round pick, but like I say, QBs, if a team likes him, they'll go up and pick him. So there's a big conversation really about whether he'll sneak into the first round or whether he will stay in the second round, where as like we say, as a player wise, probably should be, but for that QB value, someone might make the jump.
I'd watched the QB camp of Ty Simpson with
I need to,
John
yeah.
Gruden, and I've never been a fan of Ty Simpson going into this draft, and I watched that, and in ways I wish I didn't, because I would have been firmly like he should have stayed in the second round. But it was the same as Jackson Dart last year. I was so certain he was going to be a second round pick. I watched that episode and I thought he's actually really he's such a likable guy.
Yeah.
And I just thought, he could easily sneak into it. And some teams will see that and go, this is a likable guy. He's going to be good for the locker room, despite obviously what the rumors are at Alabama of him bailing on the team. But he could easily come in and sneak into that, the end of the first round. Someone will take the risk of the fifth-year option. I could absolutely see that happening. There's obviously a bigger drop-off from him to Mendoza to him to who's third? Did I say Garrett Nussmeier? Like
Nussmeier,
that's a
yeah, yeah.
big drop off from him to Nussmeier. Well, I think if you take out this season of Nussmeier and look at his last season, he was a very good quarterback. It's just this season has
Yeah.
absolutely tanked his stock, and you can say the same for Drew Aller.
Well, this is the funny thing about this draft class of quarterbacks because I look at this list and all I'm seeing is names that at the start of the college football season were all Heisman candidates, like
Yes,
Garrett Nussmeier, Drew
he was a
Aller,
favorite. Yeah.
And Cade Klubnik. Even
Mhm.
yeah, I remember at the start of the season everyone going on about how good Cade Klubnik was going to be, and it just did not happen. So it's quite funny to think that uh, there's a chance for some teams that might need a QB or whether they're looking for a backup that could potentially develop into a starter that could take a swing with like a third, fourth, fifth round pick on one of these guys and potentially develop them into the future of their franchise. Because right now, the draft stock, like we said, is low. We're not looking at a day one or like round 1 or 2 pick. But there's definitely potential for these guys to go and develop into a starting quarterback. Um, it's just this last year, a lot of stocks have really tagged, haven't they?
Yeah, oh, massively, massively. I think it's just gone down to season performances. Like the one that I remember for Penn State was the UCLA game when they got absolutely turned over, and you just think that's such a winnable game. The stadium was literally empty in the Rose Bowl. UCLA
Yeah.
have the best stadium possible, and no one's there, and even they're able to get the win over Penn State. Nothing went Durala's way, and he was second favorite for the Heisman going into the start of the season. Garrett Nussmeier the same, like could not get anything going on offense for an LSU team that has been, you know, they've always had a good offense is what I've thought of. If you go back to even like the Matt Flynn days, that's, we're going way back now, but they've always had something there. You can go to obviously the 2019 Joe Burrow team. They've always had success. I look to who then would trade up into the first round to go and get one of these other guys, and I think for the start of round two, it really does, favor the New York Jets and the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, we know that Mendoza is going to go to the Raiders unless something crazy happens on draft night. But I, I really could see, I could see the Jets sticking with Geno Smith for one season, but I don't know if the Arizona Cardinals will be willing to stick with Jacoby Brissett for one more year. They might want to find a bridge guy for a couple more seasons until they get their absolute starter in future drafts to come.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of where these two franchises are at the moment, the Jets, as poor as they have been as of recent, I feel like they're probably feeling that they're closer to adding a QB into the roster, right? And they've got the head coach sorted, they've made some moves, and they maybe feel ready, they feel ready to. Sorry, I've got that the wrong way around. The Cardinals are the team that want to bring the QB in, and the Jets are the team that can wait and add a few more pieces before doing so. Um, I think the Cardinals are definitely more likely, in my opinion, to take Ty Simpson, like you say, because I think they are. It almost feels like they're in panic stations after the way they left last season. Um, but like we say, it just comes down to where do they trade? Do they trade up and go and get him, or do they happily sit as a second rounder? Because that 5th-year option is quite a appealing one for quarterbacks. So it kind of depends on how interested they are in taking that one up.
It is massively. Like I do think we do see Ty Simpson sneak into the first round. It could easily be at 31 or 32. I'm looking at draft capitals, and the Cardinals literally have their bog standard draft picks, whereas the Jets have a lot of capital to work with. They've got 2 firsts, 2 seconds, they've got 2 fourths and 2 sevenths. So they've got plenty of capital to start moving around with. But I almost just think they go, you know what, we need to fill so many holes on our roster that we're going to sit in every position and just take what comes to us. And they could easily go and get Ty Simpson with the first pick of the second round.
Yeah, I think you make a very good point that all of those picks would probably help the Jets. I don't think they necessarily need to trade up because if they can, I mean, how many picks is it? It's like almost is it let's see, 8, 9, it's 9 picks. Like you're filling out a lot of your roster with that, and God knows they need depth as well. So those day 3 picks will be just as important. Um, so yeah, I think sticking and picking for the Jets would be a nice move.
I think this nicely rolls on to my next storyline, Sam, and it's the wait for 2027 dilemma, which I think a lot of teams will be going on. We'll be thinking about, you know, what prospects will actually be available next year as opposed to what we've currently got, in especially in regards to quarterbacks. Um, like we said, obviously Mendoza is number one, and there's no one near it. But if you look into next year, it's actually really, really enticing for teams to actually wait. And this talent that's going to come through is going to be very, very good. We've got Arch Manning, you've got John Matter, you've got Dante Moore, you've got Dylan Raiola, you've got Lenoris Sellers, you've got Julian Sayin, all available for 2027. It's now, do teams pass on a mid-tier quarterback this year? Do they roll with bridge starters for this season, or do they trade back and position themselves into a stronger position for a stronger class?
Yeah, that's the thing as well. Accumulating picks next year by trading. Yeah, I think that will be a big one, and that would be people. There'll definitely be teams looking to maybe take advantage of some people wanting to move up the board this year and maybe stack some picks later so that they can use them next year instead. Like you say, so many potential first round QBs in next year's class. So that's one of the things that will probably in my opinion, it's probably Ty Simpson that suffers for this because, like you say, it's the waiting a year and just saying we'll live with what we've got and then oh no we've got a bad record next year, so we've got a top 5 pick next year. What a shame, like I think teams. You don't like to see tanking this early in the season, but
True.
this is one of those things where you wonder how teams will address their how they will go into the draft next year so early on into the season.
I think there's almost even more risk as well for teams positioning themselves into stronger classes because of NIL money. If you look at players like DJ Lagway, he's certainly not ready for the NFL and will be staying a lot longer in college. He obviously now transferred to Baylor Bears. He'll be getting a load of NIL money for that move. You look at players like Dylan Raiola, he's definitely going to be staying for another year, especially if Dante Moore starts over him at Oregon. You could see him staying a bit longer. Julian Sayans another. He, a 1 year starter at Ohio State. You could easily see him staying for even longer. So teams are taking an even bigger risk by trading back and then not getting the guy that they expect to get, in 2027.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is that you can't just assume that these guys are going to be there in the draft because we saw it this year with Dante Moore where we thought he was going to be the second overall pick, and then all of a sudden, he's staying in college, and then the Jets are put in this dilemma where the Jets might have been quite happy to select Dante Moore second and have their QB, but now they're having to reassess that situation.
I want to talk about teams, Sam, that might be thinking into the future a bit more, or quarterback needy teams in 2027. Obviously, the big one for me that jumps off the screen is the LA Rams, especially with how we know they do not like first round picks. They often trade them away. I believe
Yeah.
they could be a team that we could see trading down in regards to thinking further into the future in 2027. Obviously, they've got the 13th overall pick. I'm looking at other teams. We're thinking like the Miami Dolphins, I think would be another one. Obviously, moving on from Tua Tagovailoa, they currently have Malik Willis at starting quarterback. They have the 11th overall pick. Would they be willing to stay at 11 or grab some draft capital going into next season as well?
Yeah, I mean, the Rams are definitely a good shout, but it it's a very 50-50 situation for them because for a while now they've been in that win now mode where actually a 13th overall pick would really benefit them. And I'm even thinking, hell, what if they want to move up into the top 10 and really give themselves a win now pick? But yeah, in terms of QBs next year, you're looking at the guys where their jobs might be a little bit shaky or again, thinking about the future. I mean, the Steelers are going to be one where even they were looking at Ty Simpson this year, supposedly. So they'll definitely be a candidate next year. The Browns with their QB situation, it's funny. Obviously, Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders, whoever it will be. There's plenty of options, and like you say with Miami, that there's been a lot of questioning over their business of bringing in Malik Willis. Especially when you think this is going to be a bad team next year. They haven't really put anything around Malik Willis, so you don't know how he's going to fare. But whether they want to, whether they view him as a more expensive bridge QB, I don't know. But yeah, there's definitely going to be teams thinking about, okay, well, how can we accumulate picks so that when we go for a QB next year, we can move around the board a little bit.
I think the Steelers are actually a really good talking point because as you were talking, I was having a little look, and I think at 21, it puts them in a really awkward situation because, like you said, it's way too early for them to take Ty Simpson, but you could see them trading back. Like we've said in previous years, they've gone offensive tackle after offensive tackle from Broderick Jones to, trying to think the most recent one they got.
Troy Faltano, was it?
Troy Faltano, yes, correct.
Yeah.
And I just feel like every mock that I've seen has an offensive tackle going to them, and I just feel like if you want a fresh start, why not go and get a quarterback that you can build around and trade back from 21, go towards the end of the first round, pick up Ty Simpson to guarantee the 5th-year option and really invest in your quarterback for the future.
You know what? The biggest factor in that for me as well is how much does Mike McCarthy like Ty Simpson as the new head coach in town? You know, if he's if he's a big fan of Ty Simpson, he might be just nudging his GM and saying, "Hey, you brought me in to be the new the new face of this franchise. Give me a QB to work with, maybe." But obviously, Aaron Rodgers is a weird one. Whether he's going to be back or not, I saw Patrick Queen talking about it the other day, and he was saying that he'd like him back because he likes him as a teammate. He thinks he's still a fantastic quarterback, but obviously it feels like Aaron Rodgers is going to do Aaron Rodgers things. He's going to delay his decision and he's going to keep it quiet while he's in ayahuasca retreat. But yeah, the Steelers are a very interesting spot because, like you say, it's too early. It feels too early for Ty Simpson, but then you could say at least that way they've secured him. But I think they're definitely a trade back candidate or maybe even a trade up just to get themselves into the teens to pick a better prospect that they prefer.
Sam, give me one of your storylines for this NFL draft. Let's hit it with one of yours.
You know what? Since we're on pick 21, I'm gonna key in on this. These sort of there's a span of teams here. Pick 21 to, I would say, honestly, I'd say all the way through to the end of the round. Now, every year we see someone pick a position of a player, and then the next guy goes, "Oh, I wanted that position. Okay, I better pick him now." And then the next guy goes, and then we have a run on receivers, tackles, whatever. I think from pick 21 onwards, we're going to see a wide receiver run, a potential for a wide receiver run. Now, the thing is, as we expect, obviously, Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate, they should be gone. Jordan Tyson, obviously, that's a big question because that's a whole injury thing. Do people believe he can play in the league? Obviously a phenomenal player, but the injuries are a concern. But then you have these sort of fringe players that it kind of depends on where they are on boards as to whether you value them as a first round pick. Guys like Omar Cooper Jr. from Indiana, Casey Concepcion, Denzel Boston, Chris Brazzell, people like that who are really on. Again, it's kind of like we say this second round grade, but if a team in the first round wants them, they'll go and pick their guy. So I think from pick 21 onwards, I'm seeing the Steelers, Chargers. Wouldn't be shocked if the Eagles did it. Browns need a receiver. The Bears are probably the outlier. I think they're set at wide receiver, unless of course they wanted to replace DJ Moore.
I was about to say
The Bills obviously bringing in DJ Moore, but could give Josh Allen another weapon.
Mm-hmm.
The Niners, you couldn't blame them. Texans, and obviously they spent the picks last year, so they'd be one that I would be surprised if they went receiver. But Chiefs could do with it, Dolphins could do with it, Patriots could do with it, Seahawks probably not. But you see that there's like only three teams in an 11 pick run that aren't really wide receiver needy. So I think there's definitely potential for some receivers to go in that back of the first round.
I'm trying to think back, and that, like you said, that range from like 20 to 25 is renowned for being wide receiver heavy. I'm thinking back to like 2020 had a good run. It was like Justin Jefferson and who did Philly take? Jalen Reagor.
Yeah, Jalen Reagor.
Thinking back to, I think it was 27.
I'd go more recent than that when we had Jackson Smith-Njigba, Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers, and then the fourth guy. Oh, that's going to really annoy me.
I think it happened in 2017 as well? With Will Fuller. Laquan Treadwell and players like
Oh,
that. I
Laquan
feel like
Treadwell, what a
that
ball.
was that 17? I honestly can't remember. I think it might have been 16. Wasn't
Jordan Addison,
17.
sorry, that
Jordan
was the other
Addison was obviously that
2023
year.
one. Yeah.
I really want to find if this was right. Yeah, so in 2016 it was Will Fuller, Josh Doxson, and
Wow.
Laquan
Yeah.
Treadwell at 21, 22, and 23. So that you're spot on, Sam. That late, like mid to late first round, is renowned for being like a run on wide receivers. I love the shout of it being like a run on a specific position, but that kind of leads me into my next point. That was
I like it because,
the
yeah, go on.
the trenches. I feel like are
Yeah.
so much more important this year, and I think teams have seen what both teams were able to do in the Super Bowl with the defensive line. I feel like that's going to be prioritized, but also how powerful the defensive lines were. They're going to be prioritizing the offensive line. So I feel like we will see a run of trenches go on a long, long way this year. If you look at like the best, all the players in that bracket, you've got like Caden Proctor, Caleb Lomu, Blake Miller, um, Marone Freeling. These are guys that could easily fall to that, that level. Defensive line, you've got Peter Woods, you've got Caleb Banks, two players that could easily go there. Edge rushers like Kendrick Folk, like TJ Parker. These are players that are going to go in that range. And I feel like you won't see a skill position for ages. It's just going to be a massive gap from like Jordan Tyson all the way down to like Casey Conception in like the start of the second round.
And I'm glad you've brought this up because this is the thing. I think a wide receiver run is entirely possible because the teams need the receivers. But in terms of true value of potentially where they have them on their boards, I think that range very much suits offensive line. Like you said, there's a lot of tackles. I feel like every time I've done a mock draft, I've hit the mid to late 20s and there's just been a million tackles on the board. The other one's corners as well. Guys like
Yeah.
Terrell, Colton Hood, Brandon Cisse, um, people that are just sat in that late range. And I think it's funny. I think there's going to be a run on a position, and it's bound to happen. It's just trying to work out which one we're going to see.
I fully expect it to be like heavy trenches. It'll be like the
Yeah,
last skill will be like Kenyon Sadiq, and then there'll be a massive
yeah,
gap until, like you said, like Avion Terrell late in the first round. But I feel like you can also look at positional depth as well, and you can kind of get a justification as to why teams will wait on a position for wide receiver, for example. If you look further down, you've got like Chris Bell out of Louisville, you've got Zachariah Branch out of Georgia, just an electrifying beast, especially in the return game. You've got Elijah Surratt, obviously one of your guys out of Indiana. You could see teams actually waiting and going, there's actually better value in the third round as opposed to picking up a guy at the end of the first.
yeah. Especially wide receivers. If you're sat there looking at them, going, "Hey, this guy was decent in college, but I can coach him into a real NFL starter." I think my favorite thing about some of these wide receivers is the potential they've got. Elijah Surratt is almost a one-trick pony in the way that he did those back shoulder catches, but he was so good at them that when you flesh out his full game into an actual NFL starter, I think he's got massive potential. And I really love that you bring up Zachariah Branch because that's a player that you know is he schemes touches and there's worry that he could be pigeonholed as a gadget player, but the guy's so good with the ball in his hands. He's impossible to tackle. And people like that make careers for themselves. And whether he starts as a gadget player in his rookie season, then you see him slowly come out into more of a slot receiver. I'm really excited to see where Branch goes. I really hope he goes into an environment that he can really blossom in.
He was a guy that I was at every like what's the game mode on college football 25 or it's now 26.
Oh,
Um it's like career mode, but he was a
yeah,
guy that
yeah,
I'd always like transfer. I was like, I must go
yeah.
and get Zachariah Branch.
Send
Just
the as much NIL as I can.
he was just like he was so quick, and I was like, you know what? I
Yeah.
just want a deep threat. It was always Zachariah Branch. He was the player. He was like my go-to player. It was him and um who did the Bears take last year for the second round?
Oh,
Luther
Luther
Burden.
Burden.
Luther
Yeah, of
Burden. They were the
course.
two guys that I always went for. I was like, oh, I just had to use him. That was college football 25, not 26. So before I get slaughtered for that, Sam, give me another one of your storylines, please.
um, I'll tell you what. Since we've sort of covered it. We've half covered it. So we'll add in a few other players. I want to talk about surprise first rounders because every year we get towards the end of the first round and we see names come off the board and we go, oh, okay, wasn't expecting that. So I'm going to start us off, Miles. Chris Johnson, cornerback from San Diego State, is a guy who has apparently been a big time riser on boards recently. I was listening to Pete Schrager talking about, and obviously he really keyed in with insiders and people in the rooms making the picks on draft day. And he says, don't be surprised if this guy goes in the first round. And I think, you look at corners. Again, another position that could have a run at the end of the first round when you think how important cornerbacks are and how many there are sort of floating around that, 20 to 40 player range. Wouldn't be surprised if he's the kind of guy that sneaks himself into the first round.
I'm going to go with my guy that's been, nothing's changed for this whole offseason. Is Zion Young. You can't be 6'6",
Yeah.
260 and not be a first-round pick. Edge rusher at Missouri. I love watching him play. I'm going to stick on the Missouri bandwagon as well. Josiah Trotter, linebacker as well. I think he's got a really good shot sneaking in. And then if you want like my safe bet, I feel like Maxi Iheanacho, the tackle out of Arizona State. I think he's a very safe bet to sneak in there as well. I love the idea of a wow factor pick. I feel like we haven't had one in quite a while. Like if you go back to Michael Penix is a great one. Like that, just really no one thought was going that early. It just really shocked everyone. You can go like to Johnny Manziel even in like 2014. Who did the Patriots take? Was it like Colton Strange or someone like that? I'm trying to think.
Strange, yeah, the
Cole
guard,
Strange,
yeah. That was the
from
COVID
UT
draft, wasn't it?
Chattanooga. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
that was
like
the COVID draft.
that's what I want to see. I want to see a really shock pick.
Yeah, I think we all watch it on a call and we all just went, who? I couldn't believe it.
But that's what they need. That's what makes the draft exciting. Something like that. Just a wow factor.
I'll give you a wow factor, Miles. How about Eli Stowers making his way all the way up into the first round? If someone on that back end decides they want a tight end, you never know. And another guy who I love, I don't think he will, but I want to throw it out there. Jacob Rodriguez was a Heisman candidate, for God's sake. I mean, I think it was probably a month or two ago, and when I was first looking at people's big boards, and I was seeing him as like a third round pick, and I was thinking, how can you be a Heisman candidate as a linebacker, off ball linebacker, and you're viewed as a third round pick? And obviously, some things don't translate to the NFL. I get it, but if he's making plays at college, he can make plays in the league. That's all I'm saying.
I think I would love to see it. Going back to the Eli Stowers one. I feel like it reminds me so much of Hayden Hurst, like just a tight end that doesn't need to be a first round pick, but you'll still take a risk on a guy like that. The late round tight ends always crack me up. It just seems so unnecessary. Go and get like a trench guy
Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, like what are we doing here? These guys are second round picks, they're not first round picks. It just doesn't feel right. I want to talk about Sam. I've got two here. I'm going to go with multi-positional defenders. I feel like that's something that's been a big topic here, and especially it lands on one man, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. Is he a safety? Is he a linebacker? He's such a hard-hitting player. Are we going to see teams look to transition players into different positions? This is a guy that could play everywhere on the ball. We've got players like CJ Allen, who could also be an outside linebacker and an inside linebacker. You've got players like Caleb Banks. Is he a nose? Is he a three tech? Like, there's so many, hybrid players in this draft that I think that might warrant them to go even higher up. And I haven't even spoken about, the versatility of offensive linemen as well, how some players can literally play all five positions. That could always be taken into consideration in selecting.
So there's two schools of thought on this, Miles. I think the negative school of thought is maybe they're good at a lot of things, but they're not really good at that one job. But the side I like to take, the positive side, is I will always love a player with versatility. And I think that's why Spencer Fano, like you said, could play all five spots, could very well be the first offensive lineman off the board. We could see him go as high as 6th overall to the Browns. Like I said, versatile player. And I like what you said about defenders, because I think especially on defense, versatility is key. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren is the next Nakeem and Rory to Kyle Hamilton. We've seen over the last few years these big safeties. And we've seen Derwin do it for such a long time as well, that can drop down in the box but still play over deep safety. Um, and I think what we're seeing the league do at the moment is really adjust this three safety look. Um, and there's a couple teams that will be looking at McNeil Warren and saying, yeah, our safety room's good, but if we could add this guy, think of the versatility that we can have on the back end. So I I really like McNeil Warren specifically for that versatility, but then CJ Allen's a great shout as well because, like we've said a million times, he's a leader. He'll improve uh, the team from that respect alone. But if you can put it in any linebacker position, he'll know what he's doing. So I think versatility is key. I love it.
I think this. Well, I've gone on about the topic, and I haven't mentioned the two key players that really summarise this. You talk about one
Yeah,
player that's already made the transition. It's Sonny Styles going from safety to linebacker. He is now the most freak athletic middle linebacker that we've ever seen enter the NFL draft. But there's one player, probably the best player of the entire draft, that can play in two positions. That's Arvell Reese, and I feel like that's probably why. I know, obviously, you had in our mock. Did you have David Bailey at two? I'm
David
trying to
Bailey.
think.
Yeah,
But that's
yeah, I
why
did.
I think Arvell Reese could be the number 2 overall pick in this draft because of his versatility and how Aaron Glenn would like to utilize him on defense and put him in different positions. Um, I just feel like that's such a key asset, especially in the modern day football game, that Arvell Reese is the number one player in the draft.
Yeah, and I think when you see what a guy like Micah Parsons has done throughout his early career,
Exactly.
they see that and they go, "Hey, we've got the guy that can do that." It's Arvell Reese. So the versatility is nice. He has said that he wants to be an edge. He wants to be a pass rusher.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm, but I don't think that means he's opposed to doing both. He obviously knows that he can make an impact in both positions, but I think he also knows the business side. He's going to make more money as an edge rusher. So that's the main thing. But like you say, he's when we talk about versatility and what position are you really, he's the main standout, isn't he?
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel like he deserves to be an edge with his athletic ability. I feel like we've seen him. There's questions about how much he can bend around the tackle, and from photos, it clearly isn't what it's lived up to be. But come on, this isn't a game scenario. I feel like he's going to be absolutely fine as an edge rusher, and he'll probably outdo Abdul Carter in what he was able to achieve in his rookie year. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do.
And he's still got room to grow. That's the main thing.
Yeah,
That's why
exactly.
people love it, isn't it? Because he's still got so much he can learn, and I think that would be the main thing: development as a pass rusher.
I have another topic, Sam, or do you have one that you'd like to dive into?
Well, I'll tell you what. Just because we mentioned McNeil Warren, I want to stick on the potential for this being a safety heavy first round. We could see three safeties go in the first round. Obviously, Dylan Thieneman and Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs potentially being a top 10 pick. Dylan Thieneman even scraping the top 10. Um, which I think it just shows, like I said earlier, about teams liking this three safety look, but also, you know, really the safety has become a more important position, I think, over recent years, and teams are making a move to address that. I tried to be really cheeky and see if I could sneak in a fourth safety,
No,
but
there's a
it
big
doesn't
gap.
feel like that's going to be happening. There's a
Yeah,
big
you
gap
can't do that.
afterwards. But yeah, three safeties in the first round. I think I mentioned it when we did the mock draft. Could be very exciting.
I think that this goes back to some of our earlier points. What the Seahawks did in the Super Bowl is going to be such a model of what is to come for the NFL and how they were able to almost sub in defensive players wherever they could on defense. They were coming in so many different formations, so many different packages that just worked so well and really put off the Patriots in that Super Bowl. We're going to see so many other teams start taking over that model. And players like Dylan Thieneman, if you go back to the start of all this draft talk, he was nowhere near the first round,
Yeah.
and he's
Yep.
had this crazy athletic combine, and he's shot up into draft boards, and he's, like you said, now on the cusp of the top 10. I would love to see it because it shows that we're realizing the value of safeties in modern day football, and it's becoming like I almost feel like a forgotten position. If you look at
Yes.
where defensive or defenses have paid money, it's always been edge rusher, it's always been middle linebacker, and now we're seeing it become corners and safeties getting the majority of money. I'm excited to see that, this modern this modern model almost be built around defenses. That's what I'm excited for.
Defenses are changing, and they've got to see that in the draft. Really, they can't just be going, oh, non-premium position. I think at some point people have to expect that all positions are premium because you need players all over the field, and you've got to have, when you look at players like Caleb Downs, when you look at Dylan Thieneman, yeah, I'm willing to overlook the whole premium position thing. If I've got a big need at safety, I'm picking one of those
But
guys.
it's also like teams going into like big nickel packages. They're not subbing in a nickel corner. They're subbing in a safety to play that position now. You look at how the Broncos drafted last year. That's for Jade Barron to come in. That's a safety that's going to come and play cornerback now. You look at what the Seahawks did. Kobe Bryant obviously did a lot of that job for them. Obviously, we mentioned Nick Emmanwori Lowe's last year. That's what he was doing the majority of the time as well when he didn't sub in at linebacker. There's going to be some guys like Emmanuel McNeil-Warren that's going to be, I can guarantee you that the majority of his combine talk or his combine interviews were about the possibility of him playing nickel. And I think that's what teams are now molding into, being physical in the run game whilst being able to, do a fantastic job in pass protection. Pass coverage, not pass protection, sorry.
Yeah. You wanna hit your story next?
Yes, if I can remember it. Yes, Sam, I want to talk about it. It's good that you talked about the value of safety because I want to talk about the value of another position, that's running back. Now, I thought there'd be a big change into the value of running back going into this draft with the success that we've had of like Saquon Barkley, of like,
Bijan
other,
Robinson, yeah.
yeah, exactly, like other running backs that are having success in their career and deserve a pay rise. Now, when when you look at the draft and it's two players from the same team being the 1 and 2 running backs, it does make me worry about what we've got for the future in regards to that position. And looking at future years as well, like there isn't anything that's going, wow, this guy's going to be the next Saquon Barkley, the next Derrick Henry. Obviously, we've got Jeremiah Love, and he is going to be amazing to watch in the NFL. But after that, I am worried as to who's going to step up and be RB2 in regards to it's going to be Jadarian Price. But after that as well, like who's going to step up? Who's going to be this year's Cam Scatterbo?
Yeah, I mean, that was the joy of last year, really, wasn't it? As how we looked at some of those late guys. Obviously, RJ Harvey developed into fantastic talent. Carl Monungai, obviously, 7th round pick. People like that who I love, love getting these late picks on running backs because you're basically at worst you're as horrid as it is to the running back position, you're getting a cheap rental to give
You
you
are.
some be a third down back or be your power back or whatever just to get limited reps, but if you're lucky they turn into a star. And I look at this list of players and I think, who's going to be the guy that's going to come out of nowhere and surprise us? I mean, it's funny. Not only is there 2 Notre Dame, running backs further down, we've got 2 Penn State running backs. There's a whole group of people that really I look at and I think, who's going to be the guy that's going to jump out and surprise us?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see an emergence of a young back that really takes over a room. Um, I just feel like you're not going to get that opportunity in many places in the NFL anymore. Like, there's some established veterans now, and you're going to have to really go in and dominate from day one. There's rooms like the Cardinals where you could see it happening from an aging room, but other
Well,
than that, I'm
this is
really
the
struggling
thing,
to see it.
because I even think back to the Giants. You mentioned Cam Scatterbo, but remember how long we were pushing for him to get those touches? It felt like we
It
saw it
took a while.
instantly, and we were like, "Oh my god, this guy's going to be great! Just give him the room." And then there's still Tyron Tracy, it's still Devin Singletary, and then finally he got his touches, and then it was like what, a week or two later when he had, was it like 24 carries, 3 touchdowns against the Eagles for that week? And then you're thinking, hey, we had this all along and we waited this long to get him in the lineup. So, yeah, I think, like you say, it's harder often for these day 2, day 3 running backs to push their way into the starting lineup. I mean, even Amarian Hampton struggled. I
I
think
know.
him and obviously the Najee
Trevion
injury came
Henderson
in,
took
but
forever as well.
yeah,
Like,
Henderson's a great shout because we said for a long time, when is he taking the backfield? Quinshon Judkins is probably a good example of someone who did take the backfield straight away, but yeah, sometimes it's hard for these late running backs to make their way into the starting lineup.
yeah, I hope that someone like Jonah Coleman comes in and just takes the room from day one. Like one mock that I had him, one mock had him going to Arizona in round 4. But I feel like that's going to be like the only opportunity. You have to go to a room with a pre-existing injury to really have some success and earn some snaps early on, because James Conner might not be ready day one, and that's going to be like your chance to gain snaps is by playing over an injury and getting in there.
Trey Benson dynasty owners aren't happy with you saying that though, Miles.
Well, they also got they got Falcons backup. What's his name?
Tyler Algier, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
of
got
course.
Algier as well. I completely
He's
forgot about
awesome.
that while I was talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's now out the window, and they might not even
Never
draft
mind.
running back. But yeah, there's obviously room for that to happen in the NFL, and I feel like it needs to. We need to see some fresh running backs come in, especially later on in the drafts, because that's what makes it exciting. That's where you get your value. I have one more point, Sam, that I want to bring up. I want to talk about the wide receiver room. You obviously mentioned the later rounds of the wide receiver room. I want to talk about the start of the wide receiver room. I want to talk about how it doesn't feel like there's a generational number one this year. If you're going off previous years, like Connell was very good, but if you're going off previous years, he's not a Jamar Chase, he's not a Marvin Harrison, and you can go the same with like Malachi Lemon as well. Like they're very good players, but are they going to be generational in the NFL, and do they warrant being this high of a draft pick?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones where, to me, I think we're almost expecting too much. We're expecting, like you said, a real game changer as a wide receiver. Like you said, Jamar Chase was a great example. I look at these guys and I think, why can't Carnell Tate come into the league and be a top 10 wide receiver immediately? Why can't Jordan Tyson or Makai Lemon be that guy? I definitely think the thing is that in order to be that kind of player, you're kind of having to look at the strengths and weaknesses and say, hey, there's not many weaknesses I can find. Whereas all of those players do have something where you could say, well, I don't know, Jordan Tyson's got the injury history. Makai Lemon is got the poor catch rate. Carnell Tate is the one where we said he obviously wasn't really the wide receiver one if we think about what Jeremiah Smith was doing. So overall, yeah, I can definitely see why there's some worry about whether they are a true blue chip prospect. But for me personally, I mean, I look at Carnell Tate and I say slot him in at wide receiver one for my team, and I'm happy.
That's because your team hasn't had a wide receiver one in its
Well,
entire
hey,
history.
I didn't mean that. Thanks. Wow, I didn't mean that as in the Ravens. I just mean whatever team takes him,
Whatever
we have
team,
to have him as a wide
exactly.
receiver one. But I get it. The Ravens can't draft receivers. Thanks, Miles.
That's okay. God. Just reminding you. Just reminding you. I do see the possibility of like Carnell Tate going to a team and just being an absolute stud from day one. Like I thought the same for Malik Neighbors as well. I was like, is he actually that good, or is he going to come and light the stage on fire? And he did. He certainly did, until the injury came along, and I was just like, yeah, I need to eat my words here. Like, he is that good, and it's like, obviously we were so high as well on Marvin Harrison, and then that's just not panned out the way that we expected it. And you could say the same for Brian Thomas as well. Like, was amazing in his first year, and then the second year it's like, okay, you're not actually as generational as what we thought. And I hate now realizing that, because these players have such, there's so much pressure on the wide receiver position as well. Everyone says quarterback's such a high pressure position, but wide receiver is as well. And I feel like you almost need to give these guys room to grow and room to, mold into that position. And players like Carnell Tate and Makai Lemon are going to need all the space that they can get to become the true number one for that team.
The thing is, as well, is naturally, because these guys getting picked at the start of the first round, there's a chance that they don't really have a QB throwing to them. There's not. You look at like Carnell Tate. I've got a mock in front of me here where you're going to the Browns, and you're thinking, well, I'd rather he went to.
So his worst nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, could you imagine he falls to pick 9 and the Chiefs can take him? Then you're like, hey, you've got Pat Mahomes. We're happy. He's really going to get the best out of him. But I look at some of the teams in the top of the draft, and you worry about whether they, can truly get the best out of them. I've got a couple more, Miles.
Go for
First
it,
off,
because I'm all
rises. Last, we go with risers or fallers. We've talked about a few risers. We've talked about Dylan Thieneman. as one of the main ones. Spencer Fano as well. Um, Fallers though,
I've got a
Ruben
great
Bain.
faller. Well, Ruben Bain's obviously a big one.
Yeah,
Yeah, Ruben Bain's a
obviously
big one.
the news that came out, and whether that dissuades anyone from picking him, whether it means he can fall to 14 and the Ravens can pick themselves a steal, I'm not, I don't know, but obviously we've talked. Everyone's gone on enough about the arm length, whether it's truly an issue or not, I don't know, but obviously potential there that he slips out of the top 10.
It's the arm length. It's also the off the field stuff that's now
Yeah.
that's now come up, and you go, is he going to fall out of the top 10? I really don't think he does. I feel like, look, you've seen so many sports athletes that stuff like that's happened to, and he's just been swept under the carpet. Like
Yeah.
nothing has come of it. Obviously, something should. Like it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's in the past in ways, and teams will easily overlook it. And I just feel like if he's at 7 for like the Cleveland Browns, they'll take him. He'll be such a good partner to Myles Garrett, and they'll just be like, "Well, we can't pass up that combo." NFL teams, they look at background checks that NFL teams have done in previous years. They don't do them. They never have done.
They don't care that much. They're not checking if
Exactly.
If Bo, what's his name, Bo's got people coming to his birthday party. So I was trying to make a draft day reference.
Oh, Bo Callahan.
What's his name?
Yeah.
Bo Callahan. Yeah, they're not checking. They're not checking who went to his birthday party. They're just seeing the stud quarterback in the draft again.
Who's the other one? They weren't checking who Vontae Mack gave the ball to in the crowd either. Like,
there you go. Exactly.
Draft day reference.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we're a week away from the draft. I'm gonna have to watch the film at some point. It feels like a year.
I feel like I've watched it too many times now. It's just like unrealistic that.
No, that's the thing. You kind of have to
nothing.
watch it. You kind of have to remove football head and just like, but yeah, they would never make that trade. You got to ignore that. You got to enjoy it. Back to the real draft
because I feel like it. Yeah,
yeah, brilliant.
Right, I want to give you a faller, Sam, as well.
Okay, go on then.
I want to go back to almost this time last year, and I always look into future drafts as to who's going to be like the number 1, number 2 overall pick. The number 3 overall pick for many mock drafts was actually a guy called LT Overton from Alabama, edge rusher. And he was meant to be the best edge rusher in this class. He is currently, Sam, mocked at the top of the 4th round. And I feel like you could talk about fall-offs in a season, but only going out and getting 4 sacks in what should be one of the best defenses in college football. It is worrying. And this guy, okay, you can take a risk on him, but look at the productivity of what he was able to achieve on one of the best defenses. LT Overton should have been one of the best players going into this draft, and it's turned out to be Arvell Reese and Ruben Bain being the star studs of edge rushers.
Yeah, and maybe that lends himself as a draft day sleeper. Maybe it means that they can bring him back to that form where he had those expectations. But yeah, like you say, going from a potential top of the 1st round to the top of the 4th round is a big time fall off. My next guy isn't as big as a fall off as that, but Jamod McCoy, cornerback from Tennessee, obviously the guy who hasn't played football in a long time because of the knee injury. I've seen a couple of teams flagging it as a red flag, a degenerative knee issue that's really putting them off drafting him. And all I could think of was Will Johnson last year. Will Johnson was we mocked him as a top 10 pick a million times. I even think about how it lost me a bet because I thought it'd be the first DB off the board, but that's fine. But the point is that he fell all the way to pick 47. As a guy who we thought was going to be a top 10 pick all the way down there. Jamon McCoy, what happens to him? Does he fall that far? Do we see a similar situation where he really slips all the way out of the 1st round? Does he end up becoming a fantastic pickup? I mean, is it the type of thing where the Philadelphia Eagles sit at 23 and go, oh, look who's fallen into our laps again. We'll just add another corner for the sake of it. Or, does he stay with, people look at that last full season of film and go, hey, he was awesome back then. We're comfortable with where he is in his injury recovery. We're going to pick him up.
I feel like you can even go and compare him to Benjamin Morrison, a guy that didn't play in that last year. teams will just. I think if you compare to like where he is, he's so much further along to where Benjamin Morrison was at this stage. Like we're going to see Jerome McCoy play week 1, whereas we didn't see Benjamin Morrison week 1. Like they're in completely different time frames of their recovery. And that's why I think he will go higher than what people probably will expect for a guy that hasn't played in over 400 days. So I have no fear that I don't think he'll fall out the first round. I feel like it'd easily be a mid first round pick.
I think he will as well, but I think the problem I have is the fact that there were some teams that weren't too happy with his pro day workouts, and they didn't feel like maybe he showed up as well as he could have. So it's going to be an interesting one to monitor. And I'm just going to throw out there, while we're in the subject of talking about pro day workouts, tomorrow Jordan Tyson's out there doing his workout, and that's going to be a really key one to watch,
Why,
because then we're going to really get to see it.
why
Go
is it
on.
so late?
Yeah,
Like,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
remember the workouts being this late. I feel like they were like the end of March normally.
Yeah, whether they're maybe, realistically, we're talking about Arizona State here. Jordan Tyson's he's the guy from that college coming into the draft. So maybe they said give him as much time as they can to get healthy.
True,
I don't know,
true.
but yeah, it does feel late, doesn't it?
Yeah, I feel like imagine if he going to get injured again. He's going to fall out the first round and like could continue to drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a worry going this late, as especially it's less than a week to the draft. Like that really does say a lot to how quickly you've got to prove your point in regards to pro days. I was like
Yeah.
trying to look for last second conversation starters in regards to what random bets at Bet365 have come up
You
with.
know what? I
Some
had
of
a
them are
look through,
terrible.
but they're all terrible. I don't know whether it's because we're still too far away, whether we'll get some more as we get closer. But yeah, I was having a look
It's like
this
Chiefs
morning
to
and I couldn't
draft
see
Kenyon
anything.
Sadiq at 12 to 1. I thought that's
Yeah.
terrible. He's never going there. Dylan Thieneman and Kenyon Sadiq to be drafted in the top 15. That's not happening.
I don't know. That's not too bad.
Top
Thi-
15.
Yeah, because then we're talking about
It's
like
good
basically
odds.
Sadiq to the Bucks and Thieneman to the Cowboys, or it really depends how confident you are they go that
One
high
that
up.
you'll love, Sam, is
Go on.
Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, both drafted in the first round. 6 to 1. I
Brilliant.
think that's great odds.
Yeah.
Patriots to draft no lineman. That's terrible odds. These are all terrible. There's not a single good one here. I
Drafting
really
no
thought,
lineman's not too bad. But the one that bothers me is that I want some kind of acca where I can say this position's going to go here, or this
yeah,
team
yeah.
wants this. You know what I mean? Like I want to do something like that where I don't have to guess exactly who they're picking. I just want to say, hey, I'm pretty confident the Jets going to go receiver. I don't know who's going to be there, but they're going to pick them to do something like that. But
And that
I
leads
don't
us
know.
on to this week's sponsor, Prize Picks. No, I'm joking. Imagine.
Use
That'd be
code
really good.
FDT. Yeah. Oh god, if only.
That'd be funny.
Prize Picks, if you're listening, just
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a bit of money and start coming to the
um,
UK. It'd be really cool.
yeah. I'll round us out with our final topic, Miles, and this is a big one. This is one I was really excited to bring up because this is where we can kind of let the imagination run wild. There's trades every year, Miles, and we've referenced it a couple of times in this episode where we've said about people thinking about next year, whether they want to trade down, trade up, whatever. Um, I'm going to go ahead and say, let's just take that logical, we're preparing for next year out.
Okay.
Miles, where are we seeing some trades? Where are we going to see people go, hey, I want to move up. I want that player. I'm thinking about, I think my favorite one, obviously, we talked about going up for the QBs. I think the Texans feel like a banker to trade out. It seems like we get that every year. One of my favorite ones is the Chargers trading up to go and get one of those top 3 receivers,
Yes.
moving up a few spots. The other one would be the Panthers leapfrogging the Bucks to go and get Kenyon Sadiq, even leapfrogging the Ravens, because apparently there's some links there too. But I don't know. Give me what do you like?
I love the idea of the wide receivers, but I'm going to change team and change position as well. I feel like it's going to be not position, sorry, draft position, should I say.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like it's going to actually be the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's going to be AJ
Nice.
Brown related. I feel like AJ Brown could be
Okay.
moved on draft day. He could go to one of those teams higher up in the draft, and then we see the Philadelphia Eagles select someone
In the
with
same
that
way he left the
pick.
Titans. Is that
Exactly.
what you're trying to
So we're
say?
saying
Yeah.
like him going to, I don't know, the Miami Dolphins and then the Eagles going up to the Miami pick and then taking Mekhi Lemon with that pick. Like you
Right.
could easily see that happen. I have the idea of like someone trading up to 8 with the Saints. Like the Saints need to save some money. They could trade down and so and then someone can trade up and go and get one of the elite edge rushers. That's obviously a possibility. And then you can take a pick from 26 to 32 of a team trading in there to go and get Ty Simpson.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of annoyed that you've brought up some exciting ones because you've kind of
I've stole your
met me
thunder.
already with because this is what I was going to say next. I was going to say let's really really push the boat out here, right? So I want to take you back, Miles, to the 2011 NFL Draft where the Atlanta Falcons moved all the way from the 27th pick
Exactly.
up to the 6th pick. You know, they gave away the 27th, the second round pick, a fourth round pick, and then the next year's first, and they went and got Julio Jones. We're talking about a pick where they
I'd
had to
love that.
trade the house, and they got a franchise player who ended up being one of the best wide receivers in the league for a long time.
Yeah, and you know what's
Now,
crazy? Like the Browns still lost that trade. Like that was trade with the Browns. They still lost that
yeah,
trade.
it's a Browns coded. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to throw this one out there, Miles. And you know what? For the hell of it, let's include the Browns again.
So this is for the 6th pick to go and get Carnell Tate.
Now, I'm thinking, and I'm looking at, I don't know. Let's say someone really, really likes Carnell Tate, and we see, I don't know, the Bills, the Chargers, the
I
Steelers.
give you a better one.
Someone just say,
I'll give you a
"Go
better
on."
one. Why not the San Francisco 49ers? Who are
Yeah,
desperate for wide receiver, who actually
yeah.
need to go and get a number one because they've had 2 guys that haven't panned out. They need to get the 3rd one right. And why not invest heavily in a wide receiver that they know is going to be dominant in the NFL and go and get Carnell Tate?
Just send the house and go and get themselves
Just go
a
2
guy
first
who,
round picks. We'll give you everything.
yeah,
Go up and get our guy.
yeah.
Carnell Tate
I
would
mean,
be ideal in that offense as well.
yeah, that's the one. That's the one that I think is really exciting. Another one would be the Cowboys moving all the way into the top. I mean, let's say 3rd overall to go and get Sonny Styles. You know, they need a linebacker. God knows
That'd
they
be
need an
awesome.
off-ball linebacker.
No one's
There's a
giving 2
big,
first
big
round picks
move
for a
for an
linebacker,
off-ball
mate.
linebacker. That's the thing. But you know, this is what I'm saying. Give me something crazy, some big move. I'm just trying to see if there's anyone else I could think of. Uh, you know, the Seahawks just saying, "Hey, we don't want to sit at 32. We want to go and get our guy because they know their GM can work some magic." I don't
Yeah,
know.
we're
I
desperate
think there's
to get corners again after losing every secondary
yeah,
player. Let's go and get
exactly.
another
They
one.
don't want to wait and get, you know, they're preempting a run on corners, like we said, and they're going to go move up to like 21, and then the Steelers can move back and they can pick Ty Simpson 32nd overall. I've worked it all out. I've leaked my mock draft for next week already.
Very good, Sam. Very good. I think that's a great place to leave it as we build up
Yeah.
suspense to go into mock drafts into next week. Make sure you're following us on all of our socials, FDT_podcast, and we'll see you all next week. Bye bye. I always